let's not be, if you will, authentic. All right, fine. Let's talk about us. This is Wretched Radio. Alistair Begg has been talking pretty exclusively about God, applying who he is, what he has done, what he's going to do to us, but the focus was not on us. It was on him. And when we do that, we are going to not just learn, but we will be affected and changed. But that is not the snippet I'm going to play for you. That means the love discourse is done. Instead, let's talk about us and maybe the picture that Alistair Begg is about to paint. Let's just say if it describes you and your church, maybe we need to be doing some touching up.
'Tis what I know of thee, my Lord and God, that fills my life with praise, my lips with song. If I look in only on myself, there is sufficient ground for disappointment and despair and recrimination. But it is when I look away from myself to all that God has made true to us in the fullness of his Son and by the enabling of the Holy Spirit, that we are then able to enter into his gates with praise. Horatius Bonner, one of my favorite hymn writers from Scotland in the 19th century, has written a number of hymns. I hope you sing them. If not, go find them. You might need new melodies for them, but that's your department. But he has a wonderful hymn that begins, not what I am, O Lord, but what thou art. Now, I just stop there for a moment. There's a start of a hymn in the selfie generation. There are people who come for a whole week, they've been taking selfies. They've been going around with that walking stick, taking pictures of themselves everywhere they go. And then and they come in and they said, well, how's this going to be for me? No, we're going to have the opening hymn. The opening line is, not what I am, O Lord, but what thou art. That alone can be my soul's true rest. Thy love, not mine, bids fear and doubt depart, and stills the tempest of the tossing breast. 'Tis what I know of thee, my Lord and God, that fills my life with praise, my lips with song. Thou art my health, my joy, my staff, my rod, and leaning on thee in weakness I am strong. You see, this is one of the reasons when people come into our congregations, if we don't do this, if we are not honest about this, then we come across as the gathering of the smug, of the people who've got it all buttoned down. So people come in, they feel broken, disjointed, helpless. If they get the sense that everybody in the place has got it all together, then there's no place for them to go. There's no opportunity for them to say, I'm a physical wreck. I am emotionally broken. I'm out to lunch. But they're not going to sit and tell you that if you like say, hey. No, but what do we say? We say Jesus is the one who restores our broken lives. You see, there has to be the Corinthians dimension, doesn't there? Such were some of you. You need to know who we are. You need to know. Sexually perverse before Jesus redeemed us. Morally a mess. Lost without God and without hope in the world. It's Jesus. We want to tell you about him. That's why you see Paul eventually gets to this doxology in light of all the things that he's prayed. You go back through these early chapters of Ephesians. He prays for them that the eyes of their hearts may be enlightened, that you might know this power, that you might be strengthened, that you might comprehend, that Christ may dwell in your hearts, that you might be filled with all the fullness of God, so that for all and any, then and now, who are asking, how is it ever going to happen? How will it ever become a reality? The answer is, you are coming to a king. Large petitions with you bring. For his strength and power are such, none can ever ask too much. I think that's Newton.
Excuse me, Alistair. It's my turn. Question. What do people perceive when they walk through your church doors? Do they see everybody whose act is together? Or do they have opportunity, because I'm not suggesting we all just walk, oh, you're a visitor. I'm a train wreck. My kids are doing this. We have these financial burdens. Come on in. No, I'm not saying that. That would be to ricochet into a different ditch. But do people show up and see a group of people who have been affected by the gospel, who need Jesus Christ, who have joy in their hearts despite the heartbreaks that they experience? What do people see when they see you in church? Now, this gets tricky because we just have a tendency. Okay, I have a tendency to do this. I'll hear an observation. It's like, yeah, you know what? We don't want to look like the gathering of the smug. So that means we now will come up with some program. I'll bet if you Google, there's a way to do it. How to be a church that looks brokenhearted, or how to be a church that's authentic. I'm sure, though. I'll bet that there are churches called Authentic Church. Jimmy, would you be kind enough to Google Authentic Church for me?
Absolutely.
And I will bet there might be one near your town where, hey, we can just let our hair down and let people know about the struggles. Okay, that becomes just sappy and forced, frankly. So that's not what I think we should be after, but I do think that we should be after some sort of authentic, more holistic expression of what our lives are like. A lot of them we've got lots of good parts, but there's also some struggles. Here's another test for you. The prayer requests, what do they tend to be about? Do you hear people actually wanting prayer for their struggle? This is so common. You get together to pray. It's excellent. And it's not nearly as many people as should be at the prayer service, but there you are. And we tend to hear a lot of prayers aimed at one ambition, health. That I've got this problem, or I've got that relative, or my next door neighbor that's just very, very common. And those things are right and good, and I'm not dismissing them. But do you ever have prayers of somebody who is willing to say, would you please just pray for me? I am going through it at work this week. I'm certain that the guy's got it in for me. I think I'm heading out the door. Could you pray for me that I would be calm, that I would trust in God, that I would still lead my family, even though I'm feeling pistol whipped by a bad boss? If you're not hearing any of those types of requests, it's probably fair to say you do not attend Authentic Church. Jimmy, was I right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Carolinas love to be authentic. I found one in Greer, South Carolina, and one in Hickory, North Carolina. Those were the first two that came up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you please click on don't tell me their name, just click on their website. We're not looking to pick on a church.
Well,
we're just looking to pick on a church name.
No, their name is Authentic Church.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah. It is? Okay, so go to those websites and tell me, how authentic does it look? What's the oomph for them?
Well, the first pictures on both websites are
representatives of you. Their target demo.
Yeah, worship, hands raised.
Yeah. So authentic worship, that's another trendy term.
Right.
I suspect the people, typically when marketers, we used to do it this way. It seems to be changing, but we used to, who's your audience? And then whoever is in the commercial or the picture, have them look the most like the audience so that the audience can relate to them. That was basically marketing 102. Churches do the same thing. They put pictures up of what they think you are like and what you want. So typically church pictures, you got a lot of happy people. They're smiling and sitting around drinking coffee and having a good time. The kids are pin the tail on the donkey and life is great. That's what they want you to think is going to happen to you when you come to this church. Jimmy?
Yes?
Just curious, could you go, do they have a sermon page at the Authentic Church?
Yes, I'm sure.
Maybe just read the title of a sermon or two, and let's just see how authentic it really is.
Okay, that one doesn't.
That one doesn't have sermons.
No. Actually, neither one of them did. Oh no, this one does. I'm lying. I'm lying. This one does.
All right.
They don't make it easy to get to, though.
Yeah, let's not make our church a fake play. But let's let people in a little bit, because there is an effect to it. It's not just so that you can experience catharsis, but it's so that they can see, okay, this Christian life, it's still a struggle. It's still hard. There's still messes that need to be perpetually cleaned up. Because if we just present everything as rosy and ducky every Sunday that somebody shows up, they're not going to feel like they fit. And they won't be understanding the gospel. They won't be understanding that such were some of us. Let's not become a silly people that pretends to be authentic, that trains greeters to be warm and sympathetic. How's about finding a greeter who's warm and sympathetic? Let's do that. Let's be real. Let's be genuine. Let's be a bit transparent, but let's not be, if you will, authentic. This is Wretched Radio. If you would like to see the entire episode of the snippet you're watching and perhaps check out my piano chops, simply visit wretched.org. Oh, don't worry. Your cake is going to be ready for your baby shower. Just putting the finishing touches on it now. Perfect. Yes, ma'am. You can pick it up at noon. It's just...